Hi, everyone. It's Gerry Dulac along with Ray Fittipaldo, day two of training camp here at Saint Vincent College in Latrobe. Actually, though, Ray, the first official day in terms of the players being on the field. Of course, the change this year, they're going to morning practices that are open to the public on weekdays. Of course, they're going to stay the same afternoon practices on weekends. But a nice crowd for the first one in the morning. I was curious to see what kind of turnout we would get. But early in the morning, the cars were lined up both ways on Route 30, and they had a nice crowd here for the morning.
Yeah, they had the bleachers full. Not quite as full as it is for afternoon practices. You saw a lot of empty space on the hillside, but I think until people get acclimated to what's going on this year, until they find out, when to show up, I think it'll be like that. I expect the weekends though to be packed. I think that's when the fans are really going to come out.
Yeah, I agree. So tomorrow and Friday they will practice. No, yes, they will practice in the morning, and then Saturday and Sunday in the afternoon. Russell Wilson, of course, a lot of people want to come to see the quarterback. Russell Wilson, of course, the big story of the offseason. He's not on the field. Well, he's on the field. He
Right.
did not practice in their first practice at camp. Injured his quad. I don't think it was very serious, of course, but they held him out, and he must have done it yesterday during the conditioning test. Is the only thing I can think of. But he was held out, and it gave Justin Fields a chance to take a lot of the snaps with the first teamers, and there were times that Justin Fields looked very good.
Yeah, he did, Jerry. He had a nice deep ball to Van Jefferson down the sidelines. Donte Jackson fell down on the play, but nonetheless, it was good timing on their part. Kind of hit him in stride. He went in for a touchdown. And overall, there was one bad miss, but overall, I thought Fields had a good day. And I don't think Russell Wilson is going to be out for long. He was out there throwing the ball around a little bit before and after
And after,
practice.
yeah.
So, there's no need for him to be out here this early, but I would think by next week when the pads come on, we'll probably see Russell Wilson.
And I think Justin Fields, maybe his best throw, there were a couple of them. He had a quick slant to George Pickens, but he had a deep throw to George Pickens, which I thought was his best throw of today. But yet George Pickens couldn't hold on to it at the
Yeah.
end. He tumbled and lost the ball.
Yeah.
But it was a tremendous throw down the field, down the left sideline as
Yeah.
well.
And Donte Jackson in coverage there as well.
Right, right.
Jackson held up very well today, other than falling down there. I thought he had a good day among the defensive backs. Everyone wants to watch that Pickens Porter matchup. We saw so much
Right,
of
last year.
last year. I thought Donte Jackson was matched up more on Pickens today than Porter was. So we'll see how that goes for our training camp. But I thought Donte Jackson had a nice day as
And I
well.
wouldn't be surprised, Ray, if they did that because they want to find out about Donte Jackson. Of course, he's the guy who was acquired in the trade for Deontay Johnson and was indicative, when the first team defense went out there, he was out there with them. We saw all the usual people out there. Of course, Patrick Queen is the newcomer in the middle of that defense. But Cam Heyward out there as well. Day one is a 35-year-old guy. He wants a new contract, but he wants to be out on the field coming off that injury-plagued year. And there he was, day one, lining up first snap
Yeah.
with the first team defense.
Yeah, Cam is 35 years old. He wants a new contract, but I also think he understands the situation, Jerry. He is coming off an injury-riddled season where he missed 6 or 7 games.
And just wasn't himself.
And he wasn't himself when he did come back. He overcompensated. He injured the other side of his core muscle, so it was a tough year for him. I think he understands sitting out or holding out isn't going to do much for him in negotiations. The Steelers know what he can do. He knows the Steelers. I do think eventually, whether it's before the season starts or next year, right after the season ends, before free agency, I think there's a good chance, as Omar Khan said today, that he'll still be a Steeler in 2025.
Yeah, Omar Khan sounding the most optimistic note about Cam. Even Cam, I had a long talk with him after practice, and he had said after practice that he's not going to hold out. He's not going to get his hopes up because if you do that, they could be dashed very quickly. So he said he could only control what he can control, and that's to go out on the field and be healthy and be productive, which he says he is healthy. And he said this team needs his production and his leadership, and they do, Ray, because that defensive line is probably the one weak area of this team, and it's the one area where they really haven't improved it a whole lot, although you have big hopes for Keeanu Benton, who's just looked outstanding.
Yeah, Keeanu Benton, I think, 10 or 15 pounds
He said, yeah.
lighter than he was last year. He's getting a feel for what it's like to be a professional. I think there's big expectations within that building for him. But you're right, Jerry. Overall, other than Cam Heyward and Larry Ogunjobi, Larry Ogunjobi signed a big contract, but he hasn't put up big stats. Dean Lowry is starting on the PUP list.
And he's just a backup anyhow.
And he's a backup anyhow. So they are pretty thin there. They need some guys to step up. We'll see if Isaiah Loudermilk, DeMarvin Leal, former third-round pick from a couple years ago, we'll see if he steps up. But it is a very thin D-line room.
Yeah, it's a big year for DeMarvin Leal because everybody talks, the coaches all talk about wanting to see production, to see the big leap from year one to year two. And DeMarvin Leal, who had a very good rookie year, they used him a lot of different places. A big step backward last year. He was a disappointment to the point that he was inactive for several games and was passed on the depth chart. This is going to be a big year for him, year three, to rebound and go and take that big step that they were looking for last year.
Yeah, and Leal, they liked him early on his rookie year because of his versatility. If you
Right.
remember, when TJ Watt was injured, he played a little bit of outside linebacker. So he was a guy who could play inside. He could play outside last year. Talked to him in the spring. He was noticeably overweight. He was not in condition out here during camp, and I think that just set him behind for the entire season. So it seems like he's got a better feel for his off-season conditioning regimen. We'll see if that's shown out here on the practice field.
Yeah, I want to go back to Keeanu Benton for a minute. And you mentioned about the weight loss. I was asking him after practice. I said, you could just tell he looks noticeably thinner. And he says he's dropped 10 to 15 pounds to about around 300. Now, he's different than a lot of players. He says he puts on weight during the season, so he expects to go back up. But I talked to Isaac Ciamalo after practice about Keeanu Benton. And he was talking, he says, he's kind of like sneaky quick. He called him slippery. He's not just a guy who can control the line of scrimmage. And he had a lot of high praise for Keeanu Benton. As we heard Mike Tomlin say yesterday, what he expects from Keeanu Benton, he's saying big expectations. Yeah. They really like this guy.
No, he's a mid-second round pick. I think he was drafted number 48 overall. He wasn't known as this big pass rusher coming out of Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Badgers, they play in the Big Ten. It's very much a run-first conference, so he was known more as a run stopper with the Badgers. The Steelers think he has an excellent skill set to eventually become a good pass rusher. We saw a little bit last year, not so much in the sack totals, Gerry, but just pressures. Him getting past some offensive linemen, maybe not finishing plays. I think that's what they want to see this year. Get into the backfield, finish some of those sacks, and put up better numbers.
So when we saw the offensive line come out with the first team, we saw Dan Moore at left tackle, which is not a surprise. Did not see Zach Frazier in as a starting center. I think they'll just wait a little bit before they throw him in there, but he did get in after that, of course.
Broderick Jones talked to us after practice today, and there's a big difference between Broderick Jones's rookie year and Troy Fautano's rookie year. But, Broderick Jones said, somebody asked him, did he feel like he was put into the starting lineup at the right time? And he kind of agreed with the coaches. A lot of time players will say, I think I could have started whenever. But he said, I had to sit back. I had to learn. We'll see if that's the same case with Fautano. Fautano is older than Jones, much more experience in college. So maybe it's a different track for him getting to that starting lineup. But I thought it was interesting what Jones said today, that he kind of understood what the coaches did last year in terms of how he was brought along.
Well, Ray and I will be back with you tomorrow. It'll be day 3 at training camp. The Steelers will practice in the morning, 10:30 a.m. right here at Saint Vincent College in Latrobe. We'll be back with the wrap-up of training camp tomorrow. For Ray Fittipaldo, I'm Gerry Dulac. You're watching Post-Gazette.com.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.